Today on Judge Faith, a landlord gets conned out of rent from a tenant fresh out of jail.
He's just someone who I would never have ever rented to.
What do you mean by that?
He has a felony. I was trying to be nice, and Your Honor, it backfired on me.
But the tenant says he was taken for fraud.
He's a big con artist. Several times I asked him to show proof of ownership,
So are you paying rent to who you believe is the real owner of the building, or are you just living there for free?
And later, a dogfight leaves a puppy in the hospital, and the vet bills lead to a brawl.
I kind of separated him, and my dog jumped back on his dog.
Your dog wasn't on a leash,
Neither
right?
dog was on a leash.
Mr. Alexander isn't telling the truth.
I don't see any reason to put a dog to sleep for a couple
I'm not
seconds.
asking you what you see. You don't have any professional training or experience in this area, so I'm not relying on your opinion.
Faith Jenkins. Her distinguished legal career began when she graduated first in her law school class. She quickly became a tough New York City prosecutor, and then a preeminent legal analyst on cable news. And now she's the judge in her own courtroom. Her cases are real, and her rulings are final. She is Judge Faith. Plaintiff Kevin Walker says he gave a felon a chance, but the tenant's past wrongs led to skipped rent. He is seeking $1,500 in unpaid rent and late fees. Defendant Bernard Allison says his landlord couldn't prove he owned the place and cut off his water. He is countersuing for $500 for harassment and non-working utilities.
Remain seated and come to order. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this case is Walker versus Allison.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, Mr. Kevin Walker.
Yes.
You are suing the defendant, Bernard Allison, for $1,500 for back rent and late fees.
Yes.
And Mr. Allison, you are countersuing for $500 for repairs and harassment.
Yes.
Okay, we'll start with you, Mr. Walker. How do you know the defendant?
He called to and responded to an ad I had on Craigslist looking for an apartment. And so when he came to see the apartment, Your Honor, I showed him the apartment, but after he went through the application process, he was someone who I would never rent to. I've been doing this for
Excuse me, Your Honor.
I've been doing this for 6 years, Your
Excuse me,
Honor.
Your Honor. Excuse me, Your Honor. I would like to say something on my behalf of my name. He's trying to
Okay, well,
assassinate
may I
my
hear
character.
his version of how the two of you met first, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go
And
ahead.
so he came to see the apartment. As he went through the application, he was just someone who I would never have ever rented to.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Your Honor, he has a felony. He has all the things on his application were telling
Your
me
Honor,
not,
he
were not
ain't
to
nothing
do
but a
it.
con artist, Your Honor.
Okay, would you wait a second, Mr. Allison?
Okay.
Everything on the application told me not to do it. But I had a
How
heart.
did you know he had a record? You ran a background check?
Yes, I ran a background check on him. And so when that came back, I felt like I shouldn't do it. But then I had this heart. I mean, he was trying to start over. He had a rough past. I was trying to be nice, trying to help him out. And so my heart said do it, but my mind's telling me don't do it. But I said, you know what, I'll give him a chance. Everyone needs a second chance. Everyone
Right.
makes a turn. So I wanted to give him a chance to do it. And Your Honor, it backfired on me. And so that's why I'm here today, because we signed a contract. We have a lease agreement.
Yeah,
he has not fulfilled it, and I'm here.
You have a
because
written lease?
I have a written
May
lease,
I see
Your
it,
Honor.
please?
Yes.
Yes, I will hear from you now, Mr. Allison.
He gave him a good impression, like this guy is good, but on all nationality, he's a big con artist. He in the real estate game doing what he had to do. I can't knock him.
How did I con you?
I'm not knocking for what he got going on
Well,
with
Mr.
himself.
Allison, let me ask you a question. You saw an ad on Craigslist.
Yeah, and I responded to it.
And you responded to it. So the two of you did not know each other prior to that?
No, Your Honor.
No,
right?
somebody
okay,
else
where's
gave-
the apartment located?
In Harvey, Illinois.
Okay, and is that a suburb of Chicago?
Yes.
Is that where you're from?
No,
Okay,
I'm from the city of Chicago.
all right. So, and you got the apartment in the suburbs?
Suburb, yeah, thinking
Okay.
to get away from the life, street life.
What were you trying to get away from?
Well, I just had a death in the
felony.
family.
Excuse me, let him finish, sir.
Well, the felony wasn't nothing, because the felonies that he looked up was when I was a child. I was like 17, 18 years old. I had no type of guidance, no father, no mother, no nothing mighty in my life. I'm just going and doing as I please until I started learning on my own. Like I tried to rent out some, all legit in my name, no frauds, no lying. I'm a general contractor, and that's what I tried to do. I had a rough task in the city, so I moved.
What
I
happened
started
in the
searching.
city?
I had a death in the family. Somebody killed my brother in the area that I've been born and raised at.
In Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to cope with the things that I was going through there. And
Did they catch the people who killed your brother?
yes, then he's in jail now.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yes, that's a blessing. So I was just trying to get away from the area, period, because it was more to just catching that one guy. It was like...
It was trouble.
Yes,
you
it
were
was
trying
trouble.
to get away from
Yes,
it.
and...
Were you having problems finding an apartment because you have a felony record? Is that what the problem was?
No, I had no problem
Absolutely.
at all.
That's why
I
he
had
needed my
cash.
apartment, Your Honor.
Do you own this building? How many units do you have? What do you do exactly?
Yes, Your Honor. I own this building at that location. There's 2 units in that location. I've got some other properties as well.
Okay, so you rent out a number of properties.
Yes, Your Honor.
So what month and year did the defendant sign this lease?
He signed the lease in December 2013.
Okay, is this a one-year lease or month to month?
Yes, it's a 1-year lease, Your Honor.
Okay, and how much did he agree to pay every month?
He agreed to pay $550 per month,
And how was there a security deposit?
$550 security deposit as well.
Okay, so he moves in December of 2013. Does he pay rent and security deposit
Yeah, so
that month?
the first month was great because he had to pay it ahead of time. So he paid in a money order. I actually had to go with him and his girlfriend. She had to give him some money as well. And we went to a currency exchange.
Excuse me, Honor.
and
He's lying. My girlfriend didn't give me not one dime. I had all cash in my hand and was willing to pay him up front inside the apartment until my girlfriend stepped up like, no, that ain't how you do business. Go to the currency exchange. It was 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Was nothing open, nothing.
She wants you to get a money order though instead of paying cash
paper
when you have a
trail.
record.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not knowing, I'm young. I just turned 28 years old, so I'm not knowing. I never rented out.
Is this your
of my-
first apartment?
Yes, my first time renting out.
And
part of your own.
I knew that.
He
That's
correct.
why I
I
was trying
have
to
been
help
through a
him.
lot of stuff in my juvenile. I'm just now developed how to do things the right way.
And I think
Becoming a
that's,
man, period.
I think that's great. I
no
mean,
gas.
even though you're 28 years old, listen, everybody has a past. Everybody goes through things in their life. I was a prosecutor in New York. I dealt with a lot of
Exactly.
young people. The key is when you make mistakes, when you can put the past in the past and know that you have a future
Exactly.
and start focusing on your future, and that seems like what you're trying to do now. I mean, I admire that. I think that's great, okay?
Coming up on Judge Faith, who's to blame for unpaid rent?
What was the reason you didn't pay April rent?
Yana, I paid the rent off, Yana.
He was late again, and he paid after the 5th.
Do you have water in the apartment now?
No.
Why is there no water in the apartment?
And later, a dogfight gets vicious.
He did have to have surgery. He was at the vet.
It was a dog fight. It wasn't my dog biting her.
Why
The
was your dog
whether-
fighting with my dog that was on a leash?
Your dog was not on a leash.
Yes,
you weren't
okay.
there, so I mean, it's
But you did actually agree to pay the vet bill.
Landlord Kevin Walker is suing his former tenant for $1,500 in back rent and late fees. Tenant Bernard Allison is countersuing for $500 for repairs and harassment.
So he pays December, there are no issues.
No,
What happens in
Dece-
January?
In January, he pays the rent, but it's late.
No, we had up to the like the 5th to pay. And I paid
Okay,
like,
but it's still late. It's due on the 1st.
no, we had.
But is there a 5-day grace period?
There is.
Okay, so did he pay before the 5th?
In January, yes.
The first time you say he doesn't pay all of the rent is April.
Yes.
Correct? Okay,
Yeah.
what happened in April?
So in April, when I arrived there, he didn't have all of the rent. So he gave me $300 in April. The rent's $550. So he said, I'll give me a couple weeks. Whatever happened with work, and he was slow and didn't have money to pay it all. And I said, that's fine. I'll work with you. I try to be understanding, caring guy. I mean, that's the whole reason I gave him the apartment to begin with, is because I wanted to be caring. I'm trying to help the guy out. So I'm like, I won't charge you a late fee. I gave him some time. He never paid it. And I kept calling.
Yana.
What was the reason you didn't pay April rent?
Yana, I paid the rent off, Yana. Before April, I did some work around the house, and that knocked like $250 off.
Your agreement was to pay rent, though, not to do work around the apartment to
But
fix it up. You understand?
I understand that, but if
But there
the
was no
landlord,
agreement
we had
between the
agreement,
two of you.
Exactly.
There was
There
no
was no
agreement.
agreement.
We
There's
had
no-
agreement between we did have agreement.
Was it in writing,
I think-
sir? Was it
no.
in writing? Because your
No.
lease is in writing. You live somewhere, you have to pay the rent.
I went down to a government-funded program that I enrolled myself into.
Okay, and so you took them paperwork about where you lived. They checked it out, and you're saying in your answer, which I read, that they couldn't find and establish that he was the actual owner of the
Nope.
building.
He couldn't, and I told Kevin that, and he said, what?
You stopped paying rent because you say you don't know if he's the real owner of the
He's the real
building.
owner of the place.
So are you paying rent to who you believe is the real owner of the building, or you're just living there for free?
No, I stopped paying because
Then you should move if I'm not the owner.
several times I asked him to show proof of ownership. Show proof of ownership.
He does not have to show proof. You signed a lease, and if you are living in the unit, if you have a problem with proof of ownership, sir, then move. Find somewhere else to live and pay someone else rent. I know this is your first apartment, and everything that you told me in terms of you trying to get sober and your brother being killed in Chicago, I know you moved to the suburbs to try to get away from all of that, but now this is about business and taking care of business. So there's no excuse for you not paying rent. What are the issues that you mentioned about water and electricity in your answer? Do you have water in the apartment now?
No.
Why is there no water in the apartment?
There's water in the apartment.
They cut the water off.
Okay,
Or
so
you guys can
that's
call them.
something that you need to check on, because
Right.
even if a tenant is not paying rent, you as the owner, you can't turn off water, you can't turn off electricity, all of the necessities you have to continue to provide. So that's something that you have to check on.
Right.
You absolutely
Yeah,
have to make sure that there's running water in that building.
Yes, Your Honor.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff, $250 rent for April, $550 for the May rent. You're only suing for $50 rent for June, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, $550 rent for July and $100 in late fees plus your court costs. Mr. Allison, you have to pay him $1,500 plus court costs, okay? You understand? Have a good day.
Plaintiff Melinda Wynn's puppy was attacked by a neighbor's dog and needed surgery. She's suing for vet bills and lost wages. Defendant Joseph Alexander admits his dog was in the fight, but says he's not responsible for the high vet bill.
Ms. Wynn, you're suing your neighbor for $947.71 in vet bills and lost wages resulting from a dog attack. Mr. Alexander, you admit your dog attacked the plaintiff's dog, but you say you don't owe any more money. Ms. Wynn, we'll start with you. What happened here?
On April 16th, in the evening, my father was riding the bicycle, and he had my dog on a leash when Mr. Alexander's dog ran out of the house and attacked my dog. And so I'm suing for the vet bills and lost wages because
Were
of
you
that.
there for the dog
I was
attack?
not. My dad goes on nightly bike rides with my dog.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you didn't witness the attack itself?
I didn't, but as soon as he came home, he told me what happened, and that's when I checked my dog, and I did notice on his right abdomen that he had a wound on his side.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of dog do you have, and what's his name?
His name is Jax. He's an Australian cattle dog. He's under 40 pounds, and he had just turned a year and a month old at that time.
Okay. And was he seriously injured?
I took him to the vet that early that morning, and they told me once we were there, they checked the wound, and they told me that they would have to put a drain in his side, give him stitches, and clean out the wound. Otherwise, he could get an infection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why was your dog loose that day?
I was leaving the house. It was about 10:30 at night, and I take my dog for car rides. I take him everywhere with me. The dog park. He's very friendly around other dogs.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a boxer.
Okay.
He's 11.
And what's his name?
Clyde. His name's
All
Clyde.
right.
And like I said, I take him everywhere with me. And we were leaving, going to my car, and a guy was riding by on his bike, kind of by the sidewalk, but in the street, closer to my side. And the dog was running on the sidewalk. And they kind of just all of a sudden saw each other.
The plaintiff's dog was running
Yes,
on the sidewalk.
yes.
Okay.
And they all of a sudden saw each other and just kind of started fighting. I ran over, lifted my dog up, pulled him back. His dog went after my dog, and then I kind of separated him, and my dog jumped back on his dog and got a hold of him. I lifted him up. When I lifted him up, he still had his skin in his teeth.
Your dog wasn't on a leash,
Neither
right?
dog was on a leash.
Okay.
At the same time, we looked the dog over. I apologized. He apologized for not having his dog on a leash. We went our separate ways. They came by the next day, said they needed to take their dog to the vet, blah, blah, blah. I said, here's $100 to go towards it. I'm willing to pay half of the bill.
Well, actually, you say that you tried to find him,
Correct.
and someone told you that he didn't live at the house.
Right, because
where the dog bite
because
actually
Mr.
happened.
Alexander isn't telling the truth.
Coming up, does the bill for the dog fight add up?
She brings me back a vet bill of almost $800, and she tells me that she got her dog neutered.
Plaintiff Melinda Wynn says her dog was bitten by the neighbor's dog and it required emergency surgery. She's suing for vet bills and lost wages. Defendant Joseph Alexander says he already gave $100 for the vet bills, but never agreed to pay neutering fees.
My dad was actually knocked off the bike first, and then my dog, because he was on a leash, he was tangled. And even though my dad was trying to get Mr. Alexander's dog off, he couldn't fight. It was a bigger dog, and he wouldn't let go. Mr. Alexander did eventually come out and pick up his dog, and that's how the dog finally let go of my dog and put him in his truck.
Do you have pictures of the injuries? Let me see
do.
them. Let me see them. I probably can get a better view from these photos, and then we'll look at them on the flat screen. Okay, is that the...
That's the wound the morning of at the vet when they shaved the area to take a better look at it.
Wow, that's a pretty big puncture.
Yeah.
Hole, okay.
Yeah, and they were...
Was that the only injury in this one particular area?
Correct, yeah.
My dog only has one canine. He lost the other canine, so that's from the one
So that's
tooth.
probably why he only has
All
one
that
puncture.
is one little tooth hole.
Let's look at the next photo.
That's after he had the surgery. They had to cut the wound open deeper to clean the inside tissue, insert a suture, the drain, so that the wound could heal correctly, and then he had to also have stitches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the next one.
And that's him the day after. We even had to buy him baby socks because they didn't want him scratching, and put a cone so that he wouldn't lick his wound.
Okay.
But yeah.
Did he end up being okay?
He's fine.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
So you go and you try to find the defendant.
That night of, my dog ran home by himself. My dad was knocked off the bike, so he quickly asked Mr. Alexander if he resided at that
And
house.
had the two of you met before
Never.
this incident? Okay.
Never, yeah. So my dad followed my dog all the way home. My dog was home. He told me what happened, so I quickly went to go check my dog, and that's when I noticed he had the wound. So.
But you went to find him because you wanted him to be responsible for the vet bills.
Yes, and I wanted to let him know that my dog was injured.
What happened when you went to the house? Did you end up finding him? How did you locate him?
Not until the next morning. When I finally see him at the house, I approached him with my brother. I let him know that his dog did bite my dog, and he did have to have surgery. He was at the vet.
It was a dog fight. It wasn't my dog biting her.
Why was your dog
by
fighting with my dog that was on a leash?
Your dog was not on a leash.
Yes,
you weren't
okay.
there, so I mean, it's.
But you did actually agree to pay the vet bill.
Yes, I did.
Correct?
And
okay.
I actually gave her, I said, here's $100 out of my pocket. Just show good faith. Bring me back the vet bill, and we'll work something out.
That's actually not what happened.
And she brings me back a vet bill of almost $800, and she tells me that she got her dog neutered, and all the neutering charges are on my bill.
Let me see a copy of the bill that you provided to him. Let me see what you have as well, sir.
This is the original her bill, and this is a neutering bill. And you can compare them. The catheterization, the anesthesia are all parts of the neutering.
What kind of training and experience do you have for you to come into court to say anesthesia wouldn't be needed for that surgery and that anesthesia was used for neutering?
I don't see any reason to put someone to sleep, a dog to sleep, for a couple
I'm
seconds.
not asking you what you
his wound
see.
was?
You don't have any professional training or experience in this area, so I'm not relying on your opinion. Now, if you wanted to bring in an expert and have an expert come in here and break down this bill for me, that's one thing, but I'm not relying on your opinion, sir.
And now, Judge Faith rules.
So the issue in this case really wasn't about liability, because you agreed from the very beginning that your dog bit the plaintiff's dog, and you agreed to pay the vet bills from the very beginning. The dispute came in when you actually got a copy of the vet bill and you saw the itemized list, and you felt that she had some procedures done that you shouldn't pay for. She admitted that the neutering was on the bill. She deducted that from the bill, and in her lawsuit today, she deducted the $100 that you paid towards the vet bill. I do find you liable for the rest of the vet bill. You agreed to pay it, and you haven't done that. I find in favor of the plaintiff in this case. I'm not awarding you for lost wages, but I am awarding you for the remainder of the vet bill and your court fees. Verdict for the plaintiff, $657.95. You need to pay the rest of the bill.
If you or someone you know has a dispute, don't take the law into your own hands. Let Judge Faith rule on it for you. To submit your case, go to judgefaith.com and tell us your story. See you in court.